quarterly review of 2023. So this will cover January through March of the year, and it has been wild. I've gotten through a lot of books, like a just enormous amount of books. And I think that's because I've been really trying to push through my giant manga TBR. Like, I had so many volumes of manga to get through that I've gone through a lot. I still have a huge pile that I'm trying to get through as well. But, yeah, I just dedicated myself to getting through them so that I didn't have, that huge tower of manga. I could actually reshelve them so that they looked proper. And but on top of that, I've been listening to audiobooks and reading at least 2 light novels a month, so that's gone through a lot. I've read a couple of poetry books, so they're like quicker reads than others, and yeah, just a lot of reading to the point where I almost feel like I don't need to read for the rest of the year. but I'm going to, because I still, there's so many books I still want to read. And I've gotten through quite a few of the advanced reader copy books as well, which is good because there was a lot I wanted to read this year, and they've been so good. But I'll go into more details about some of those when I show my actual stats. And honestly, why don't we just do that now? I'll transition over and show you all my stats. So here we are with my 2023 reading log. Just like last year, I got this from Book Riot. They do their annual reading log, and it includes things like the title, the author, the artist, or narrator. So if you listen to audiobooks, you can put the narrator here, the publisher, pub date, the day that you started reading, the day that you finished reading, whether you didn't finish the book, the pages, the length if it's an audiobook, then the format of the book, fiction or nonfiction, the form, so it's usually prose, let me see all the different options: prose, poetry, novella, comics, essay collection, short story collection, play and picture book, then the genre, the audience, whether there's POC representation, LGBTQIA representation, trans representation, the creator gender, disability representation, whether it was a reread, whether it's a translated work, the original language if it was a translated work, the nation of origin for the book source, the reason for reading, the days read, and this is all auto-totaled, the days read, pages per day, and time per day, that's all auto-generated from your previous answers, and then you can rate the book, and then if it's part of the Read Harder Book Riot Challenge, you can enter the number of the challenge category. Okay, so you can, if you decide to do the 2023 reading log from Book Riot, you can change any of the categories. You don't have to use them all. Like, if it's better for you, you just want the author and the date that you started to read, the date that you finished, whatever. You can just have that information and get rid of the other columns. I personally think it's kind of fun to see the diversity of my reading and just all of the statistics. I think it's cool, but you don't have to. You can make this work for you. So looking onto my list of what I read, this was my starting book for January. I Am Not a Serial Killer, which is a pretty fun book. I don't want to get too much into it, but essentially the main character has feelings where he thinks he could be a serial killer, but there's other stuff happening, and he sort of becomes the hero of the story, but also still has very strong feelings that are driving him to do bad things. But it's good. This is a series. I think I've read the first 2, but I think there's more that I haven't finished yet. So just going on down the list, I will probably pick out ones that I enjoyed when I get over to my Goodreads look, because I like the visuals of seeing the covers. For this, I'll just do a quick scroll through just to get to my total number. So right now we're still in February. There was a lot of graphic novel, manga reading in February. I was trying to do my big catch up of my TBR. I had so many manga, it was getting out of control. So a lot of these are manga or graphic novels that I was trying to get put away or get donated or whatever, because it was just, it was getting out of hand. I couldn't stand it. There was like piles of books and I just had to get them read and organized. There's too much. So now we're finally to March, and I'm just going to go through to get the final number. And we end right here with Candy Flurry, which is available digitally. And I think I got it like right after it was released. So that brings us to 256 titles for the first quarter. And that was a lot of reading. And again, most of these would probably be graphic novels. I read so many manga volumes, so that would be the majority here. But I did get through quite a few light novels as well. And there were some poetry books and other fiction. So let's take a look over. Oh, first, before I head over to Goodreads, I actually just want to look at the charts, because it's one of my favorite things to do is to look at the charts. So obviously, the finished, I don't DNF books. Usually, I try to finish them. And I'm usually picking books I actually want to read, so of course I'm going to finish them. Here's my mostly read fiction. I try to do nonfiction because it's good. I actually do like nonfiction. It's just more dense and harder to get into, so I don't get through as much a year. But I do like it. My primary format so far has been print. I think that, again, is because of manga. I have a lot of print manga. And next would be audio, and then some digital. And most of the digital, there are a few digital comics, but mostly it is the advanced reader copies of books. This, again, I think is skewed because of the manga, where there's more YA manga. So, but adult and YA is pretty good. I haven't read any middle grade yet, so I should do some more middle grade. The form, again, you can see here that I've mostly read manga, because it's 54.9% comics. So this is manga and a few graphic novels, then a few short stories, and then prose and some poetry. And the poetry also is how I got through so many books, because I think I finished at least 2 volumes of poetry so far. And then the genre. So good chunk of horror, good chunk of romance, good chunk of fantasy, and that's normal. I love fantasy, I like romance, and I love horror, so yeah, they're going to be in there. I'm surprised that my mystery section isn't that big yet. I can see this probably growing throughout the year. Books pubbed in 2023, and then a lot of backlist books. That part's not important to me. Again, you can see this is mostly going to be the manga here, and the biggest chunk of my reading. And then here you can see how it breaks down. I've borrowed 36.4% of books from the library, 57.9%, again, mostly the manga, are all from my own TBR, and then 5.6% are review copies. And then there's my audiobooks by length. And you can see here the books finished per month, and I got through a ton in February and March. That was where the majority came from. January was more regular for me. I don't think I'm going to keep up the pace that I have right now. I kind of hope I don't. I would definitely be good, like, pausing at some point. The author and artist gender. Sometimes this is difficult because I'm not sure. So sometimes if I put other, it's that I don't know the gender of the author, and this can happen a lot of times for Japanese authors where they don't put it on there, and it doesn't matter to me. I don't know, so I'll just put other until I find out, and if I don't, it doesn't matter. The nation of origin, some from Korea, a lot from Japan, again, mostly the manga, although there was a few books too that I finished. Then I have some Australia representation, some UK representation, and some Canada in there. And then, of course, the US. And then this must be, I think some of these would be Africa. I know I read some African authors as well. And then, again, POC versus white authors. And at this point, again, probably mostly from the manga, although I've read other authors of color as well. that they're at the majority right now of what I've read. Same with whether it's protagonist. Yeah. And then there's been some queer representation, books in translation. Again, lots of manga, a couple of traditional print books, disability rep, trans authors versus cis authors, and protagonists. And that's it. I think that's what I mostly like to look at. I have completed... Oh no, did I not? I didn't put it down. I have completed the Read Harder challenge. I didn't put the numbers with the 2 books that I read, but I did do historical fiction, which I actually did a mystery that's set in the... I don't remember if it was the 70s or 80s in Japan. It extends, like, I think up to the 90s, maybe. But it was really good. And then I chose one of my new books for Read a Book with Under 500 Goodreads ratings, because it's not published yet, so they haven't reached that. But I obviously didn't put the number. But I am done with these 2 categories as well. But that's technically part of April, so it's fine if that's not on this wrap-up, because for the first quarter, I hadn't finished it. I finished that technically in the second quarter. All right, now hopping over to Goodreads, where I love to see the covers and it makes it stand out. So let me scroll through and find, as I'm looking, maybe some of my favorites or some standouts that I want to talk about. Obviously, if it's a book that I've reviewed or talked about, I'm probably not going to dwell on it again. Like I sort of covered Tress. I liked that. The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth right here is a new Sally Hepworth book. I read the advanced reader copy for. I think it's out now. I think maybe it was released on the 5th. If not, it'll be out anyway. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure the book is now out. And if you like Sally Hepworth, it's good. It's very much more of a thriller, mystery vibes, and was good. I reread Sorcery of Thorns to prepare myself for the little novella, because it had been quite a while now since Sorcery of Thorns was released, and I wanted to see if I still liked the book as much, and I do. There is just great characters, a lot of fun. This one, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, was actually really cute. It's by T. Kingfisher. I've read a lot of T. Kingfisher's more like adult horror, but this is a YA fantasy, and it was very fun, and I would recommend it. Obviously, Run on Your New Legs, I've reviewed. Phantom Tales of the Night is coming. I will be talking about this one. Angel Maker by Alex North was really good. There it is, Mysteries of Thorn Manor. And it was a nice, like, revisit to that world. I almost wish that it were a full book companion, but it satisfies a need. It was still really good. I think for the most part, I've liked a lot of what I've read so far this year. The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead is really, really good. Deeply depressing, but well worth a read. And one of my favorite romances and / books so far this year is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. It's great. It's got one of the best male love interests. Yeah, I guess he wouldn't be. Well, he's half protagonist. It's one of the books where it's split between the female protagonist's narration and the male. So, anyway. One of the best male representations. So good. Seventh Time Loop. So good. I had to do a reread of Beautiful World, Where Are You for my book club. And finally got to read The World We Make. And then you'll probably notice some of the series that I have talked about already. This is the end of Night of the Ice, and it finished nicely. I don't know. It was a satisfying ending. I think a successful series overall. This was a surprise to me. I did not know there'd be a 4th volume of Fruits Basket Another, because I thought when they released volume 3, they put final on there. But apparently volume 4 is the final. And there's only like a chapter or two that are of the new crew that Fruits Basket Another centered around. And then it has the bonus chapters that were on the friendship, the trio of Shigure, Hattori, and it's Hayame, right? I don't know why I always forget him. But it was kind of fun to be back in that world. I really hope that Natsuki Takeya will be able to work on what is it, Lisa Lott's, whatever it is, in the Witch's Forest or something. That one that's like on hiatus. I would love to get more of that story. Don't Fear the Reaper was good. I semi-talked about that one. I also did like the latest Matthew Quick, We Are the Light. It's a kind of depressing story that touches on gun violence and mental health. But yeah, that was really good. And then there's me catching up on Cardcaptor Sakura, Clear Card Arc, on Fierin. I'm never sure if I'm saying that right. And Snow White with the Red Hair. I had so many volumes of Snow White with the Red Hair. I dread thinking about how much I need to read of Yona of the Dawn, because I only read I think the first 15 books. I have the others, but I haven't read them yet, and I'm intimidated. But I know that's gotta happen too. My Love Mix-Up is still going strong. Very cute. The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, I would recommend. That was really good. Same with Olivia Blake's Alone with You in the Ether. It's a bit of a different look. And it's really just like a relationship story, but it's good. Got caught up, I think mostly caught up with Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I can't remember if there's another volume that I need to catch up on, but that series, it takes like a good turn. Trying to remember which volume that I wasn't expecting, and now it definitely has me hooked to where I gotta see what happens next. I liked Emily Henry's Happy Place, not as much as her book romances, but it still is a satisfying read if you're a fan of Emily Henry. And I think that's released on the 11th, so probably right before this video is out. So you should be able to get it now if you're an Emily Henry fan. I liked Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. It's another fairy story that I like it that she's more of a scholar, and so she's doing a scholarly investigation into the world of fairies. And then, of course, things get intense. I did like Magic Lies and Deadly Pies as well. I'm nervous to read the second one because I hope it doesn't change too much of the direction of the story, but we'll see. The Poacher's Son was also very good. I read that for book club. And I unabashedly love Otherworld's books, Depend on the Bean Counter. I've talked about that book and read volume 2, and it's just a good series. There's just a cute quirkiness to it. The Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. I like Charlie Holmberg's stories. They're mostly, I think maybe all, they're all fantasy. Sometimes more like fairy tale-esque retellings. But I was a little bit behind. There's a series that I ended up reading later. But I saw a new book available on NetGalley. So I requested the ARC and opened it to discover that it's actually book 2. So then I had to go back and find book 1, which was Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, and I had to finish that book before reading the arc of the other one, which I have now completed, and it's a really cute duology. I would recommend this to fans of Howl's Moving Castle and fantasy stories like that. The Sorcery of Thorns that I was just talking about, this is a good blend that's in that same kind of vibes. In the Lives of Puppets, which I think is out on the 25th of April. is beautiful. It's another fantastic work by TJ Klune. I've been a fan of TJ Klune for a while. I think his voice in books is good. Like, he knows how to give good voice to the characters. And that this is well worth it. It's a retelling of Pinocchio, but it's definitely a bit different while still kind of touching on what it means to be human and alive. And yeah, that's about it. Finished Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, which is the final book in the last hours. It's an okay final book. I gave it like 4 stars. It wasn't perfect. I wish some things were done a little bit better. There were some things I thought were kind of ridiculous, but some of the characters I liked to see, and I liked their stories, and others I'm like, why is this dragged out? It was a little, but you know, it was an okay ending. The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy is kind of a zombie-esque romance story. Like, they're not zombies, but like the world they live in is kind of zombie apocalypse-esque. It feels more like a necromancy to me than actual like zombies, but I guess that would be like a similar vibe. Like, there's dead that come back to life. And so the main male character is it's not like a sheriff, it's the other word, but anyway, he like is the law and has to go out and like make sure that the creatures are stopped. And the female protagonist, her family owns a funerary service, so they take care of the bodies. And I know that sounds weird, but it's a really cute it's a really cute romance. Just some good books. Read more Lovesick Ellie and Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. Both of them are kind of sweet romances. I actually think Kubo might have a sweeter romance line, but I also still like Lovesick Ellie. Another T. Kingfisher, House with Good Bones. Newer release from T. Kingfisher. Definitely some creepy haunted house / dark sorcery, would we call it that? Stories in there, but it's good. One for My Enemy is Olivia Blake. It's funny because most of these books were already out, like as self-published, but now these are like their official publishings. So I listened to the advanced reader copy of One for My Enemy. I'm waiting for my book from Waterstones that's this cover, and it has beautiful like sprayed edges. I think the standard release, the flowers aren't colored in. Like, it's more just line art, but I love this one with the colored in. And it's a urban fantasy retelling of Romeo and Juliet, sort of, with like different twists. Call the Name of the Night is a beautiful manga series. This is volume 1. Definitely for fans of Witch Hat Atelier. It's good. I'm a fan. The Spite House, definitely creepy. Brings in other like social issues as well. But yeah, I liked this. This is really good. We Sold Our Souls is Grady Hendrix. Didn't like it as much as some of the other Grady Hendrix books, but still a kind of funny narrative. The Heir of Uncertain Magic is the book 2 from The Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. This is the one that I had to wait to read until I finished Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. But they're both worth it. They're good stories. And yeah, would recommend. Did a reread of at least the first 3 volumes of Alice the 19th. That was kind of on a whim. But there are some You What to Say series that I want to revisit. And then, of course, I need to read Arata. But this hooked me in because I was trying to remember like some of the storyline, and I got swept up in it. And we end there with Candy Flurry, which doesn't have the cover. I want to talk about the rest, but I can't. Those are for April, so pay no attention to those. But me end here with Candy Flurry. In general, like these first 3 months have been pretty good. I read a lot of the advanced reader books that were good. I still have some on my list that I'm going through. Right now I'm finishing the Claire Legrand adult fantasy book, which I cannot remember the name of right now, but I'm sure I'll talk about it in the next quarterly review. It's good. I'm having fun. Some great books released. Loving catching up on some great manga series as well. And I'm sure I'll continue to review them and the light novels that I read. And that's about it. So I will pass it back to myself to wrap everything up. So that's what I've read from January through March. And April's already going well. It's just the beginning of the month, so it's not like there's a ton. But so far, so good. Next is getting through my TBR for April. So I got to push through, get my light novels read, my library book read, and then just continue doing pleasure reading from there, and maybe continue trying to catch up on my manga TBR, because I know there's a ton of manga releasing in April. So I'm going to have to do a ginormous manga haul as well. Just my continuing series that I really want to stay up to date with. And that is what I'm looking at. But so far, I'm enjoying 2023. Definitely gotten through a lot of stuff. Like a lot. But I kind of feel good about it, because I do kind of feel like if I needed to take time off and not to read anything, I could easily do that, because I've gotten through so much. So that's it for this video. Until next time, bye.